Hello everyone, this is Nicole. Thanks for tuning in. I'm recording this from my apartment in Tulum, Mexico, and the walls are quite thin, so it could happen that you hear my neighbor. Just letting you know. I've been wanting to record this for a while on this topic, on relationships, and there's in a way so much to say, and if you just shift your perspective a little bit, it's actually very, very simple and there is not much to say at all. So I picked 3 topics that are connected to how we relate to relationships. And some of these things are questions that have been asked in the workshops that I have guided. I've guided a workshop on the 5 love languages. And what people ask a lot about is about expectations. Sometimes they don't ask directly, but they just actually express their expectation. They say, I would like this from my partner. Or my partner doesn't do this, why not? So one topic is expectations. The second topic I'm going to talk about is co-dependency. Codependency, when you depend on each other. I need you and you need me. I cannot live without you. You cannot live without me. Is also something that is kind of promoted maybe subconsciously or unconsciously in a lot of movies and media. And I think it's changing, especially among people who are becoming more aware of how they behave. And I think it's a very tricky thing because I think it can happen very quickly that you become codependent, and it's kind of like romantic, that I cannot live without you, you cannot live without me, and it sounds very dramatic, but it can be very sneaky. So, and then the last topic I'm gonna just touch on is loneliness, which I think also has a lot to do with how we relate to ourselves, because we're relating to another person, but first of all, we're relating to ourselves, and how we relate to ourselves influences, obviously, how we can relate to another person, the capacity of how we can relate to someone, and also what we are able to give in a relationship, also what we are able to receive, and also what we are willing to receive. And so I'm gonna quote from a book that I have here. It's a book by Bethany Webster, which indirectly has to do with relationships in a way. The book is Discovering the Inner Mother, a guide to healing the mother wound and claiming your personal power. So I'm not going to talk about this book right now, but I'm going to just quote one of the things that I feel are relevant, and that is in the chapter that is about healthy boundaries. I always circle or underline things that I like in books. So here I circled: healthy boundaries are selective, permeable. They're not too rigid or too loose. Rather, they are flexible and can be opened or firm when needed, much like a healthy cell. Boundaries are related to our early attachment needs as children. They pose the question, where do I end and where do you begin? And then I'm going to skip a few of the parts, and further down an important step in developing healthy boundaries is learning that no outer person can provide the inner safety that you need. That's already summarizing pretty much how we should deal with expectations in a healthy relationship, and also codependency. But I'm going to just continue reading, and then we can talk about... I'm just going to share some of my thoughts, and maybe that inspires you, maybe it helps you in some way. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I started listening to podcasts and videos about relationships probably like 10 years ago, in my early 20s, when that stuff started to come online on YouTube and stuff. And I often just listen to things because it helps me to hear how other people feel. So I'm just going to share some of my thoughts, some of my perspectives, and also experiences. And the last thing I'm going to quote is, knowing ourselves as individuals is essential for true intimacy and connection with others. So I'm going to just read this again. Knowing ourselves as individuals is essential for true intimacy and connection with others. Why is this important? Knowing ourselves is important because then we know what our needs are. What do I need? What I need is usually what I express as an expectation. When I'm not fully aware, maybe that what I'm doing is expecting something. So maybe first of all, I should clarify why I believe that we shouldn't have any expectations in any relationship. And I'm not saying like I can do that. I'm not there yet. I think it's also very human and very normal to have expectations, but I think it's important to be aware that I have an expectation and then work with that and try to look at the expectation and ask myself, okay, what is the need or the desire behind this expectation? What is an expectation? It's I want this from you. I want that you behave in a certain way so I feel comfortable. Or I would like you to not behave in a certain way so that I don't feel uncomfortable. So just rephrasing it in a different way. That's an expectation. So you can fill in, like the expectation that you may have towards a partner or even any other person. We have expectations, obviously, not just towards partners, but also towards family members and friends. And there's nothing wrong about it. There shouldn't be any judgment. Don't judge yourself. But the awareness helps. And why is it important to be aware of it? As soon as I know the need behind this expectation, I can disconnect this expectation from the other person. So let's say I'm dating someone. Okay, I'm just giving a random example. And I expect this person to have time for me once a week, let's say, or twice a week. I think, to be realistic, I enjoy it when somebody spends time with me at least twice a week, when we're kind of getting to know each other, or we are in an intimate relationship. And I think that's what feels nice. And I already have very loose expectations. I'm not very attached to my expectation, but let's say, okay, on a subconscious level, in some way, I would like this to happen. If I'm really honest, I would like this special person to take time and spend time with me twice a week. And I would also like that we do something fun, that we do something where we can really connect to each other, so that we're not looking at our phones, or we're sitting in front of some other screen. I would like to spend quality time with that person twice a week. That's something, let's say I have that expectation. I would really like that. I would really like it to go that way. And then let's say, for example, I have a lot of work, I've been doing a lot of things, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that person, and then this person cancels and says like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm really tired, I can't do it, I have to do whatever, I have to do my laundry, I have to go to the bank, I have to do some other stuff. And when I'm attached to this expectation that this is the time I'm looking forward to, because this is the time I'm gonna have some quality time, then I will most probably be upset or sad, or maybe even angry. So that's an example of an expectation that was not fulfilled. And let's say I am really sad because I really wanted to see that person, but he cancelled the date, let's say. There is one scenario where when I'm really tired and I didn't really have such a great week or such a great day, the chances are much higher that I will be upset or that I will maybe be angry. And then there is a second scenario where, let's say I had a really beautiful day, I met really great people in my classes. I'm teaching classes pretty much every day. So let's say I had really beautiful classes. Let's say I was invited to a really beautiful hotel to teach a new workshop there, and I really enjoyed going to that hotel. I'm just making up a scenario that I know that would make me happy. And then I had coffee at my favorite cafe, and then I had my favorite food, and then I spent some time at the beach. And so let's say I had a really wonderful day, and then in the evening I'm supposed to meet this guy, and he cancels, and I'm gonna be like, oh, okay, it's okay, I'll see you some other day. I hope you get everything done that you wanted to do, and thanks for letting me know, and it's okay. So my reaction would be completely different. Why? Because I already fulfilled my own needs of being happy and of taking care of myself and making sure that I'm feeling okay. And that doesn't mean that I need to have a perfect day every day, or I need to feel happy every day. I think that's actually an unrealistic expectation towards myself. We also have expectations towards ourselves, and that's even trickier, I would say, in some way. So I don't have the expectation towards myself to make myself happy all the time, but I do take the responsibility very seriously to make sure that I do the best I can to take care of my well-being. So I am responsible for my physical well-being, for eating and exercising and moving my body and doing everything that physically I feel good as is possible and as good as I can do it, to take care of my physical well-being, my emotional well-being, doing the things that I need to do to feel that I have enough time to relax, that I have enough time to process feelings when I have difficult feelings. How do I do that? That's where it's really important to know yourself. It goes back to the quote, knowing ourselves as individuals is essential for true intimacy. Why? Because that's why. So if I know what I need for my physical and my emotional well-being, then I can take care of that. But I have to know myself for that. And that's almost like, this could be the answer for everything, actually. This would be the simple answer. What I mentioned in the beginning, that this whole topic could just be answered in this one phrase. You just have to know yourself, because when you know yourself, you can take care of yourself. And then you don't have any expectation. And then you have this scenario when somebody else cannot offer you or cannot give you in that moment what you would like to receive from them, then it's absolutely fine, it's okay. Which is actually then, ironically, very attractive. Usually we're attracted to people who don't crave us or need us. We're attracted to people usually that are confident and strong. If you have like a healthy kind of sense of attraction, if you have some kind of, like if your attraction is built on trauma, or trauma is a strong word for some people, but let's say you're attracted to people who bring out like unhealthy patterns in your relationship, or you're attracted to people who are not very safe for you because you find it exciting. If you're attracted to someone who is like dramatic or subconsciously triggering you in some way, but it feels familiar for you to be triggered in that way, then obviously that attraction will always cause drama. But that's actually a whole different topic. I don't know how I got here. So if you are attracted to someone who is confident and you can see that they're happy with their life, or at least they're like taking responsibility for their life. They try to work in a job that fulfills them. They try to do the things that make them feel good. Usually that's like a healthy attraction when you're attracted to that person, because you see, wow, there's a lot of beauty in this person's life, and there is a lot of balance. And so you were attracted to someone who's in balance because you're also interested in being in balance yourself. And in the end, when you are relating to someone, the most important foundation is that both people are, as much as they can, in balance individually, and then they can be in balance together. And that brings me to the next point, codependency. Codependency happens when both people are out of balance and they need each other to be in balance. So then in that case, it's like, I'm not so happy with my life and you're not so happy with your life. But when we're together, we can be happy because now we have each other. Which means if one person leaves, or one person is unavailable for some time, maybe even just because they're sick, or like forever, for whatever reason the other person is unavailable, in a codependent relationship, that would mean that the other partner is like lost and scared and will have some negative reaction when the other person is unavailable. So that is, I think, also very common, especially in society and in, I guess like everywhere in society where people have lost the connection to what is really important, to be fulfilled and to be happy, and that is not something that is outside of you. It's not outside of you, it is an inside job. It's something that you do by taking care of yourself, your internal world, and then you come into balance, and then you're not gonna even want to be in a codependent relationship, or at least you will notice it, and then you will try to fix it, let's say. But I also can observe in myself that this codependency in my case can happen when I have like a bad, like when I have a difficult time, let's say when I have like a bad week, and maybe it's not 100% a codependent relationship, but it's just like a codependent tendency. Then, but I guess codependency requires two people. So it's not, then in that case, it's not just me having a bad week. I am part of the creation because I need the person, let's say. because I have a bad week, I'm like, oh, I need you to come over to my place, and maybe you can cook for me, or maybe you can help me and take care of this, and I'm so tired, I can't do all of this stuff, can you please help me? Or can we please go out tomorrow and do something fun, because I feel so terrible because whatever bad thing happened. And then the other person said, yeah, of course, I'm gonna do everything to keep you happy because you're so important to me. And the other person is trying to please me, and that can be switched around as well. For example, if I'm dating a guy and this guy is having a tendency to be upset or angry or depressed, usually in the past, I would actually take the role to help him. Many of my relationships in my, let's say in my 20s, which is not that long ago, were with guys who were just unstable, emotionally unstable, and with tendencies to depression, actually, because that's something that is familiar to me. I grew up with people who are depressed in my family, and so actually that was a familiar thing. That's what I mentioned before. If something feels familiar, you're going to feel attracted to a partner who is not healthy for you and who is not in balance, but you feel attracted because it's familiar. And so I struggled a lot with that in the past, and now I can notice it much faster. But what can still happen is that even if it's a healthy relationship and there is no codependency, that I have to be very careful when, let's say, when the guy is having a really bad time and he has he has a problem that comes up, and he starts to feel, I can feel that he starts to feel that he's going towards feeling depressed, or that he's doing something that is self-sabotaging, he's treating himself in a bad, unhealthy way, sabotaging himself. I have to be really careful to not try to fix that and be responsible that he feels okay and that he feels good again. And then in the past I would do that, and I am quite okay at doing that. I think I can do it pretty well. And so I used to be in relationships where this would then be the codependency, that would be the codependent pattern, that I would be like, okay, I can help you, and it's fine, don't worry, if you're depressed, it's okay. If you're drinking too much, I mean, that happened only one time, but even then I was like, that's okay, I can handle it, don't worry about it, until I reached a point where I was like, no, first of all, I don't have to handle it. Second of all, if we're really honest, I can't really handle it, because then I'm usually neglecting myself. And that's already enough reasons. And I'm not responsible for it, because you are responsible. And that sounds a bit harsh maybe, but in the end, it's really the best thing for the other person if they learn how to take care of themselves, and so that they are free and independent, and they don't need me to do that. And that was a really big lesson to learn that. And I think we learn lessons more than once. We usually learn lessons in life several times on different levels, and the lessons get kind of more complicated and less obvious. And so now, in my recent past, I have been with a person who was very emotionally intelligent and very self-aware, but still would sometimes kind of like fall back into anxiety and sometimes just disappear and not be there anymore, or not be able anymore to communicate. And I would, for a short moment, I would try to take care of him and to help him, but usually even within the same day, during the same day, like on the same day, I would be like, oh no, I'm not like doing this. And also at the same time, he would actually say, okay, I don't feel well, I'm going to take time for myself now. And so then we immediately broke this codependency, even like at the very beginning where it could become like codependent. We stopped it from both sides. He said he would take care of himself, and I would say, I'm actually also going to take care of myself. I cannot help you. I don't have the energy to help you, because I need my energy to take care of myself. If you really take care of yourself really well, then this actually takes quite a bit of attention. And he would do the same. And then we would just like spend some time where he would just do the things that he knows are good for him. I'm not going to really go into details, but I would do the things that are good for me, like eat the food that is good for me, even if I feel like eating unhealthy food sometimes to feel better, like still making sure that I eat. It's really important for me to like eat the food that I know that makes me feel strong and awake, and I wake up in the morning and I feel that I have a lot of energy, and move my body and spend time in nature, and also work on my projects, do creative things, find new opportunities to work in different ways. And I'm obviously working by myself, not for any company really. I'm freelancing, I'm self-employed, so that's already a lot of responsibility where I have to focus on like making sure that I do the things that I need to do. So we kind of, I think we actually did a pretty good job in everybody, both of us, like taking care of themselves. And I think that's still not really popular in modern, I don't even know, in modern culture, if you could call it that way. I think it's more popular to say, you have to take care of the other person and the other person has to take care of you. And that codependency has been romanticized. And I think if you ask a psychologist, they would point it out to you. If you would go to therapy, they would also point it out to you. But I think it's very quickly confused with, oh, you're so egoistic, you're just focusing on yourself. Like you're like so self-centered because you are the most important person in your life. So like you have a really big ego. No. You are the most important person in your life, because if you are happy and balanced, you can be happy and balanced in a relationship. And the other person as well. If the other person is taking care of themselves, the other person is also the most important person in their life. That's true for every person, not just for one person or for a few people. I believe that's true for everybody. Everybody is responsible for their own happiness. And then a balanced person can meet another balanced person, or at least a person who is able to take responsibility for their own well-being, and then they can be in a relationship. And if there is an issue, or if difficult situations come up in life, which there will always be challenges in life, then you can go through those challenges together without losing yourself in the relationship, and also without kind of losing your power, because by depending on another person, you're also kind of losing your power to to feel that you are actually strong and independent and you can handle your own challenges. And that doesn't mean that we always have to do everything alone. It just means that you are able to do it alone, and it's really nice if someone helps you, and it's perfectly fine to ask for help. But the most important thing is that you remember that you're able to take care of yourself, and you're able to take care of your challenges and to face your challenges. So that I'm just gonna loop back to the quote from the beginning: knowing ourselves as individuals is essential for true intimacy and connection with others. And also the other quote: an important step in developing healthy boundaries is learning that no outer person can provide the inner safety that you need. I think I'm going to drop the last point that I wanted to talk about, loneliness. I think I'm going to leave that for the next episode of this podcast, because I feel like, well, first of all, I feel like there's a whole lot of stuff to say about loneliness. I think it's a really big topic, and I have a lot to say about it. And I feel like this was a pretty good summary. I am at least satisfied with my own summary of this. Is there something else I would like to say? I think I'm going to leave it here and just let you digest everything that I've said. I didn't write any notes. I didn't plan on anything. The only notes that I wrote down was 2 bullet points, which are expectations, and the second bullet point, codependency. And then I had the 2 pages in my book that I read from, the 2 quotes. And that's it. Everything else was just playing it by ear, pretty much. I think actually I would like to quote Kim Eng. Kim Eng is the partner, I think now she's his wife, of Eckhart Tolle, or in English they say Eckhart Tolle, the Power of Now guy, which if you know me a little bit, you know that I really enjoy listening to him, and I read his books. And so his girlfriend or his wife, Kim Eng, she has really nice videos about conscious relationships and healthy relationships, and also about expectations. And in one video she talks about the space in relationships, that there is allowed to be space in relationships, and that there is nothing wrong with taking space for yourself, and there is also nothing wrong if the other person takes space for themselves. And that whenever we feel scared, if another person is moving away or is unavailable for some time, then that fear is already a sign that we need to take care actually of ourselves. So when I notice that I'm getting anxious if a person that I care about does not respond or seems to be unavailable, then I know, oh, something is triggering, that behavior is triggering a fear inside of me. Where does this fear come from? And then I can bring my attention back to myself, away from that person, not looking outside of me for that safety, but bringing that attention back to myself and take a good look at what I actually need. What is the need below this fear? Or maybe there is an old emotion below this fear. Sometimes a fear comes up that is not actually connected to the present situation or the current relationship, but the fear actually goes all the way back to something that happened in the past, a really long time ago, with a completely different person. But in the nervous system or in the subconscious mind, there is still this memory, and then it's a projection. It's a projection from the past, from something that we experienced in the past, and we project it into our current relationship because we think it's going to happen again. We think, oh my God, this is happening again. And very often it's not a conscious thought. It's subconscious, and we're not aware of the thought, but we feel the emotion. So you don't realize that this is actually from a different relationship or from the past. And so you think this is actually about this person right now. This requires a lot of taking time and really asking yourself, where does it come from? And also having that moment where you realize, wow, this is a really strong emotion. When you know that the emotion is very big and it's kind of out of proportion for the present moment, then it's usually about the past. Okay, that's also a topic that I can talk about a lot, projecting from the past into the present. So there's a lot to talk about, but I think to summarize, I'm going to say it is absolutely okay that there is space in a relationship. If you notice that you are afraid, either to take your own space, take a good look at that, get to know yourself better. If you notice that you get afraid when the other person is taking space, then also take a good look at that. And the key is to really know yourself. And that's actually quite beautiful, because the key is not in the other person. The key is you. You have the key inside of you. By knowing yourself, you will know how to take care of yourself and what to do. And by doing that and by learning that, you will feel more and more freedom in the relationship, in any relationship. And I think that's the ultimate goal, at least for me, is to feel freedom in a relationship. And by freedom, I mean that there is safety and calm and reliability, and at the same time it's like a safe type of love. It's a very warm, gentle, loving feeling, without any fear, without any anger, without any doubt or any of that negative stuff. I think all of that negativity is the opposite of fear. Is the opposite of freedom. Maybe that's a good point. Maybe the opposite of freedom is fear. And the key to creating your own freedom, and the key to having a balanced and healthy relationship, is taking really good care of yourself, knowing your boundaries, and knowing how to express your boundaries. And I hope that something in this episode helped you. Maybe you remember something that I said that will help you. If any questions come up for you, please feel free to reach out. I really enjoy hearing questions, and I'm very happy to respond to questions in another episode, because it really is actually more fun for me to talk to something that I have received from someone else. It's fun. I enjoy that. So feel free, and there will be more episodes. There's a lot to talk about. I can talk about loneliness. I can talk a lot more about boundaries. I can talk about projection. Maybe I'm going to talk about something completely different, because I never know what I feel inspired to talk about. I just decided spontaneously. And for now, this is the end of this episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. And I wish you a beautiful day or a beautiful evening whenever you're listening to this. I'm sending you a big hug from Tulum, from Mexico. I'll hear you again soon.